Hi, everybody, and time once again for the Spartan Sports Report on TV3. And Sam and I are happy to welcome to the show Shane Russell, who is Assistant AD at CHS. Thanks for coming, Shane.
Well, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Well, you were on earlier and gave us a lot of information, so you can start giving us information now.
I'll give you what I can.
We had the awards program last week, and that must be one of the more pleasant things you guys get to do is to honor these kids that really work hard in athletics and receive their well-deserved rewards. Tell us about that.
We have an awards program after each season, and like you said, it is rewarding because a lot of times you have difficult things during the season and you're trying to build, but it's good to recognize the kids after they've completed their season. You know, of course, you'd like to have more sectional championships and regional championships, and hopefully teams are still playing at that time. But it's good to give out their accomplishments, not just for the season, but for careers. When you start giving out clocks and blankets, and then you really realize how difficult it is to earn so many letters to get those kind of accolades. So it's a good time, and we enjoy doing it.
Right. I'm impressed that probably 95% of the kids are honor roll students.
Yes, and the one thing that you hear a lot if an athlete doesn't play, they say, "Well, I'm trying to concentrate on grades," but that's kind of mythical because, like you said, many students, I would say at least 80 to 85, not only are honor roll, are at 3.5 or higher, which is very difficult to do. But when you play athletics, you get used to managing your time, and you set goals for yourself because a lot of athletes are goal-oriented.
Yes.
And they seem to be able to manage that quite well. And if they put the time in, they really do pretty well on their grades. And Mr. Duncan the other day had them stand up, everybody that had a 3.5 or higher, and I felt like he was talking probably for 5 or 10 minutes, kids standing up all over the place, which it's a great feeling to see that.
What's 3.5 mean? Like some A's and B's?
Yeah, well, you're on a grade point, and an A is a 4, and a B is a 3, and then a C is a 2, and then you average it together, and then you throw in some minuses and pluses, and you can gain 2/3 of a point or things like that. And so when you factor all those together, that's when you get your GPA.
Well, what's the minimum? What do they have to attain to be eligible for sports?
Well, to be eligible for sports, it used to be a 2.0, and that wasn't adjacent to the IHSA. So what we did is a few years back, we went through our athletic council, and we got it changed to exactly to what the IHSA is, which means you have to pass 5 out of your 7 subjects. So there really isn't a GPA minimum or maximum. It's just you pass your 5 out of 7 for the previous 9 weeks, and then you're eligible.
Okay. Sam, I know you're impressed with the kids.
Oh, very much so. And talking about the time that it takes to practice and play their games or matches or whatever they're involved in, and to keep their grades up too. It's a lot of discipline, but that's preparing them for the future when they go to college or when they get out into the work world. If they have that kind of discipline now, that's what employers look for, is people that will put in the extra time.
And that's exactly right. And to kind of piggyback on that, it's getting to the point now where if, let's say that you're very skilled in a sport and a lot of coaches are looking for you at the next level, especially at the Division I. One of the first questions that they'll ask is, how many sports do you play? Because these coaches want you to be able to play multiple sports, in order to show that you're well-rounded and that you can manage your time and things of that nature. So, which is kind of surprising because you would think that a college coach would want you just to focus on their sport. But that's really not true nowadays. Now, there's exceptions if you're just one of those, where you're probably going to be a professional athlete someday. There's those, what I call diamond in the roughs. But for most kids, they want you to play multiple sports. That's the first thing they look for.
But sometimes kids want to concentrate, or maybe their folks want them to concentrate on what they're really good at.
And that's true. And for a school like us at Connorsville, that sometimes that's not a good thing, because there's only so many athletes that go around. And we understand, if that's what you really want to do, we really try to discourage that. And we really try to talk to our coaches and discourage that because, like I said, we only have so many athletes to go around, and sometimes one of your athletes might be the best in 3 sports, and you really need them to play your sports to be competitive in all your sports. So we try to discourage that, but that does happen from time to time.
50 years ago when I was in school, that the athletes that I knew, most of them were 3-sport athletes. The guys, of course, we just had GAA back then, didn't have IHSA sanction with the girls, but with the guys, they'd play football, basketball, and baseball for the most part, unless they were in track or cross country. But it seemed like the guys did do that. So I'm glad to hear that that's maybe coming back.
And we hope so. And like I said, we're really encouraging that. And I was the same way when I played, 30 years ago, that, I played in every season. And the problem is a lot of sports now are really getting specialized where they play all year round. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 different theories to that. Some think, well, it really helps you. And, you do have to work on your craft in the off season for your sports. That's a given. We always say athletes, you get better in the summer. You don't get better during the season. However, if you work on your time management, you can squeeze in a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That way you can get your other 2 sports or other 1 sport in, to be successful in all of them.
I want to talk to you about the winter sports, basketball. A pretty successful season for the kids.
I think we had a successful season.
Yes.
We had a little slump there at one point where we lost a few games, but they were close games. And the thing about our basketball, and Coach Brown just does an amazing job. He has a system. He runs it. If you was to a lot of times look at our lineup and our kids, and no slap to our kids, but you compare them to some of these big athletic teams we play, and a lot of times those big athletic teams go away a loser because of Coach Brown and the hard work of the kids and the buy-in and the fundamentals and just doing the little things right. And for what we've had the last few years, we were a little down this year, but we still had a successful year.
Yes.
We're still building. We still got a lot coming. It's very exciting. And for me, being here now 26 years, it's so refreshing to see us every year now competing for that sectional championship and going to the regional, and that excitement again that we had so many years ago. So it really is a thrill to have that.
Spartans don't beat themselves, it seems like. I mean, these kids play, as you say, fundamental basketball. And if they're going to lose, it's the other team.
You're right, except we had that anomaly there in the sectional in that first quarter. Sometimes you just have one of those days where nothing goes in and the other team can't miss. And even the kids, you got to give them credit. They got down 20 points just right off the bat, and even down to the last couple minutes, we were right there ready to
got within
prime
5,
to take the lead. But it's just when you get down that many, it's just so hard to. You have to score almost every possession, which is tough to do, for any team. And you got to give the kids and Coach Brown credit. They made that comeback. It was just too insurmountable, but it was just one of those days. Every now and then, sometimes you have them go in your favor, and you have one of those days. And then sometimes you just shake your head.
Well, I think we've seen over the last several years, prior to this year, those close games were going our way, and we had several this year as well, but just not as many. And it's not for lack of effort, and the kids really worked hard.
They play hard, and you can say a couple of different things. The reason that might have been, sometimes it's just the way the ball bounces. I think we were a little inexperienced at the guard position, and that does hurt you because you really need solid experience at the guard position to go deep into tournaments, and you even see that in NCAA. And I think we're a little experienced, and we had a few things not go our way, and the Newcastle game, I'm still shaking my head on that one, but those things happen, and the thing is, I think the future looks bright for Spartan basketball. It really does.
Yes, it does.
The cupboard is not bare at all.
It is not, and I call it the machine. And once you get Coach Brown, it took him a few years. He had to come in and mold everybody in his image, and now the machine is running. So now you just make sure guys buy in and they follow what they're supposed to do, just keep that machine running in the right direction.
And his staff, I think, his assistant coaches do an excellent job.
They do an amazing job, and they are his right hand man. And Coach Brown trusts them. You know, they make the substitutions and they do this and they do that, and they're there in the off season. And JD does a great job, and Chris Bottomley and all those guys. They
Brad was a great addition.
Exactly.
Cody.
He come in and he did not miss a beat, and and they help him, and they're his eyes, and it's just a good fit for us right now.
You talked about Coach Brown at beginning the program when he came here, and now we're seeing the results of it. The same thing is happening in football. Adam is trying hard to do that, and one of these days we'll see the results.
Yes, and it's a little bit more difficult in football. One, because you know, in basketball you can get 2 or 3 really good players and then have role players and you can win. Mm-hmm. In football, it's not quite that easy. You have to get 8, 10 guys that can really play in order to be successful. And the one thing about Coach Kelly, he's from here. Mm-hmm. He's vested in the community. Mm-hmm. So he's here for the long haul. This is not a stepping stone. He's not, he didn't come back to Connersville to say, well, I'm going to try to win a couple seasons and I'm going to try to leave.
Sure.
This is where he wants to be, and he cares about the kids. And it's just about getting the numbers and getting kids to understand and buy in that work hard. And it's not from lack of effort from Coach Kelly. And I know they've struggled last year with winning football games, but I think that I think once that culture steps in, I think we'll be okay in that. We're not going to win like basketball and football. It's just it would be very difficult.
Sure.
But I think that for us, I think that he can get us going in the right direction.
Right. But it's a problem getting kids to come out and play football. We see that all over the state. Rosters are down in size, in numbers, probably because of the concussion problem, and maybe there are some other issues, I'm sure, too, that are out there that are causing problems for coaches.
And I think you touched upon that. That's exactly right. There's more media now. Mm-hmm. There's more of that fear of concussions and different injuries. And football kind of has that stigma where you can pick up those life-threatening injuries or those catastrophic injuries.
Sure.
To get the knees blown out and things like that.
Sure.
And there's some truth to that, but you have just as much chance to getting those in other sports too. I've seen some gruesome injuries in other sports, and in basketball, guys completely tear their knees up and things. And but football, because it's a severe contact sport, it has that attached to it. So I think fewer and fewer kids are playing, and I think in some aspects fewer kids play sports in general. If you look down at the the baseball and the Babe Ruth, used to be you'd have 10, 12, 15 teams, at the major league level. Now you have 3. It's just there's other things to do. There's the gaming, and there's just there's such a wide variety. When I was a kid, the only thing to do was to get your gloves or get your football or get your basketball and go play. That was.
I think we've added a sport in soccer that's taking kids away from the traditional sports.
And I think so. And soccer is a great sport for youth, and because you can have a lot play at one time. Sometimes if a kid, especially when they're young and they're very inexperienced, you can kind of put them in the game. You can kind of hide them places until they get better. So it is a great sport. And it is one of the few sports that I would consider that's really growing, especially in Indiana, is soccer. And and we've had some success in soccer, and our boys programs have been good for several years, and our girls program is really starting to get turned around, and Coach Cooley's doing a great job with the girls soccer. So it is one of those sports where it's really growing, and it does take away from other sports.
Mm-hmm. That's what I attribute some of that to. But you talked about football and possibility of injuries, but that's the only one where you really have equipment on to help prevent those injuries.
That's right.
You look what some of the other sports, what you wear. You have no padding. You have no helmet.
That's true. That's true. And it's the nature of the collision and the violent hitting in football that I think that, and you really have to have that mindset to when you start playing as a young person and you're playing in your third and fourth grade, and you really have to kind of develop that in fifth, and you get in sixth grade, and unfortunately sometimes it's about physical maturation at an early age, and sometimes you're a late developer and you kind of shy away from it because all these other kids are a lot bigger than you and stronger than you, and then you worry about the injuries, and mama worries about the injuries, and dad worries about the injuries because you may not be as big as some other kids, but by the time you're a sophomore and junior, you're just as big as everybody and just as athletic, but you haven't played, so you really don't have a lot of interest in playing. So I think sometimes that hurts too.
What about spring sports? What's the outlook? How do you see baseball and softball?
Honestly, I think we're looking good in the spring sports. I think softball returned a lot from last year.
Yes.
I think softball is going to be very good. Unfortunately, we play in the sectional with New Palestine, who is the best girls softball team I've ever seen in my life, and they've returned most of their girls. But you know what? You can beat anybody in one game.
Sure.
So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I think softball is going to be very good. Baseball was down last year. I think they're going to be much improved. Coach Thompson has stepped in. They're working hard. Coach Myers is back coaching again. Some kids are coming out that didn't come out last year. I think they're going to be much improved. So I think they can compete for a sectional title. What else we have? We have boys golf. I think boys golf may be a little bit of a rebuilding year. There's not many that came out this year, and they're going to be pretty young, but I still think we have some strong golfers. And, golf's one of those sports, too, where on any given day that you can, you hit the greens and knock it in, and you can beat some people there. What else we have? We have girls tennis.
Yes.
Girls tennis, I think, is going to be a little bit about like they were last year. I think they can go over 500. I think they can compete for a sectional title. That's one thing about our sectionals in tennis. We can always compete for the title. Franklin County is pretty loaded in tennis and girls tennis, so they'll be tough to beat, but, you work hard and you hope for the best there. What other sports am I thinking of? Okay, baseball.
Track.
Track, I think track's going to be decent. The numbers were really good. I went to practice the other day. The numbers seemed like they were up. You need good athletes. You need a blend of strong for your shot and disc, and you need some fast runners. You need some distance runners. I think the girls are looking pretty good. I think they'll compete for a sectional title.
Yes.
Boys, I think, can compete. It'll be tough to beat Rushville. Rushville seems to kind of have a stranglehold on the sectional title for track, but I think, if everything works out, I think we can compete with them and give them a run for their money also.
Graduation took some kids from track and field, like Wes Smith, graduated last year. And
yeah, you're always going to lose a few of
Sure.
your top athletes. Those, you get those athletes that are good in about everything, and then they can really score a lot of points for you because you can put them over here in this and put them in this and put them in that, and they're scoring all those points for you, and then you lose one, and then you really kind of know where you stand there. But that happens every year. You lose a couple of those
Right.
athletes that really are your point scorers, so
Yeah.
you just kind of have to make it up in other aspects.
in girls tennis, you've got an ex-Spartan tennis player, coach, Chris Bloom.
Yeah, he was coaching the boys, and he's also coaching the girls. So he really wanted to take that dual role, and he was a good tennis player when he played, and does a good job coaching.
Yes.
And I'm excited, and he's excited to see how he does with the girls this year. He wants to kind of dive into that realm and see if he enjoys it. So I think he's going to be successful. I really do.
Seems like you have, excuse me, quite a few alumni that are coaching spring sports, and that's a good thing.
That is a good thing, and that kind of revert back to when we were talking about Coach Kelly. If you're an alumni and you're from here, you understand. You understand our community, and you're vested into the community and the athletic program in general, because you were a part of it. You were a Spartan. And now you want to convey that to your team, about the importance of being a Spartan.
Yes. Opening day's not too far away. March the 30th, the girls play Oldenburg Academy in softball, and the boys on April 1 will be opening their season.
And got to be excited for that. You just hope the weather holds out. That's the thing you worry about in late March and early April. Is you don't want to sit out there with snow flurries. But I will tell you, we got some tough people. Of course, those coaches, they don't care what the temperature is. It could be pouring down rain. It could be it could be sleeting. They're like, well, I think we'll be okay. And I don't call it too soon. I think we'll be all right. So. And you like that. You want people to want to be out there. And I remember when I coached, I just wanted to be out there. I remember a time that I was getting upset because it was raining. I really wanted to coach, really wanted a game. And I remember Miss Noble, she goes, Shane, you can't control the weather, so don't worry about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Why am I worried about it? I can't control. So, and you try to get, you do make up a lot of your games. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm excited for both sports and can't wait.
Who makes that call? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
Who makes that call if there's a weather postponement?
It depends on the kind of weather. Like when it comes to snow, in the winter, what we'll do is Mr. Duncan, or sometimes me, but mostly Mr. Duncan will call transportation and talk and say, hey, what's it look like? What are we thinking here? And maybe even call some other schools and see what they're doing. So it's kind of a collaborative type situation. When it comes to like rain, like in the spring, it's mostly what we'll do is we won't make the call we try to do it the latest possible, around 2 o'clock. What we'll do is we'll have Brian Edgecombe, who's our athletic custodian. He'll be out mowing, or he'll be out, testing the field, see how sloppy it is. And then we'll he'll say, well, I don't know, what do you guys think? And then we'll go out and look at it and walk on it. And then usually around 2 o'clock, we'll either pull the plug or say, well, I think we can go. Let's try it. The tough ones is when the weather's coming, but it hasn't got there yet. Those are the tough ones. And then you just say, all right, go ahead and come on down, or we're going to go your way until we can't. So you got nothing until you got something. So sometimes.
Yes.
And that's tough because sometimes you may get a team or us going to them, drive an hour. As soon as you get in, the skies open up, and you're like, well, it's a long ways to drive for supper,
And some things, as long as there's not lightning, you can get a few things in.
That's true. And there's some of those sports you can. Of course, there's some of those sports you really can't do a lot, like tennis. If it sprinkles and it gets a little wet, it gets dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
And that ball gets all fuzzy,
Sure.
and you just can't play in the rain at all in tennis. Baseball and softball, as long as you're not tacky and sliding around, you can. Of course, track's one of those sports that it either has to be a monsoon or a snowstorm or lightning. If it's raining, you're out there running. You may have to shut down like a shot put or pole vault. Pole vault is usually the most dangerous if it starts getting wet.
Sure.
So that's the first thing you shut down. But track is one of those, though. It don't matter. If it's cold, if it's raining, we're going. So, and soccer's kind of like that too. And when we do that in the fall.
Well, the state finals are coming up Saturday, and here's a look at the 8 teams that will be playing at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. In Class A basketball, the game will be at 10:30 in the morning, and the Bar Reeve Vikings are 26-2. They play the Fort Wayne Christian Braves at 27-2. The teams played during the regular season, and Fort Wayne won in overtime 76-68. Bar Reeve has an enrollment of 287 students and is located at Montgomery. That's near Washington in southwest Indiana. The Fort Wayne school's enrollment is 241. Bar Reeve won the state title in 2015. Christian won in 2004. In Class 2A, the game's at 12:45, and it has Andrian's Fighting 59ers 20-8 against the Linton Stockton Miners. They're 27-3. I guess then because of the coal mines in that area, that's where they got their name.
59ers and the Miners. So that'd be a hard one to call.
That would be. Andrian, located at Maryville, has 414 students, and Linton has 391 students, and is located southeast of Terre Haute. Andrian has been in the finals twice, losing to New Albany in 2008 and Evansville-Bosse in 2018. Linton has been to the finals once. In 2013, they lost to Bowman Academy. In Class 3A, the game's at 6 in the evening. The Culver Academy Eagles, 24-3, meet the Silver Creek Dragons, 24-3. Culver has 845 students and is located in northern Indiana with its two largest nearby cities, Rochester and Plymouth. Silver Creek at Sellersburg, north of Jeffersonville, has 875 students. Silver Creek has never appeared in a state finals before. Culver lost in 2011 to Washington. In Class 4A, the game at 8:15 has Carmel's Greyhounds 25-1 playing the Indianapolis Ben Davis Giants 20-7. The teams met during the regular season, and Carmel won 49-39. Carmel is the state's largest school with 5,286 students. Ben Davis is the second largest with 4,449. This is Carmel's 8th state finals appearance. It lost in 1925 to Washington, lost to East Chicago Roosevelt in 1970, won in 1977 over East Chicago Washington, lost to Ben Davis in 1993, defeated Pike in 2012, won over Indianapolis Cathedral in 2013, and last year lost to Warren Central. Ben Davis in 1993 lost to Jeffersonville, won over Maryville in 1995, defeated New Albany in 1996, and Fort Wayne North in 2017. Shane, you picking some winners?
That Carmel team, they're a pretty tough team, but it's hard to go against that Ben Davis
I'll
team.
tell you.
They're so fundamentally sound. They're athletic,
Mm-hmm.
and they can shoot. They have it all. That's going to be a good ball game. I was kind of chuckling there a little bit when you're reading off the enrollment, and
Yes.
and Carmel has 5,200, and they're in the same class with us with 975. It's just sometimes I just kind of shake my head on that, but that's going to be a very good game.
Yes, right.
And it seems like Bar Reeve. It seems like they're in it. It seems like every year now. So, they're tough to beat. Also,
Yes,
so
right.
I read somewhere where regardless win or lose, because of success factor, they'll move up a class, which I still don't understand all that.
that success factor. Well, and then in the past, if you were right on the edge, if somebody moved up in the success factor, that would bump that person that's on the edge down. And they've kind of gotten away from that. So now, if teams are bumping up, they're just going to keep them up there. So if you're on the edge, you're just going to stay where you are. So that was
And that's
something
where we are.
changed.
We don't know.
We're right on that cusp. So we don't know. Some, we got some people that want to come down to 3, want us to, and then there's some people that says, you want to win that 4, you want to at least vie for that,
Sure.
which would be tough for us. But
Yes.
you never say never.
But to me, doing that is more like the old single class because should we be fortunate enough to get there and you play somebody like Carmel, it would be like 1954 Muncie Central and Milan. I mean that actually more of a difference than that. So
Absolutely, with the difference in numbers there. My wife always says, if you don't win the 4A, then you didn't win it. So I think there's a lot of people that would disagree with that. But if you win it at the big boys, then
you're a big boy.
You're a big boy.
You're the dean of students at CHS. How's that business?
That business never stops. There's always kids that seem to need a little bit more support or a little reminder that there's rules that need to be followed. We need to come to school on time. We need to be at school. We need to follow the rules. So that So I always say I have job security when it comes to that position because there's always some kids that always seem to not be able to follow exactly what they're supposed to do, and I have to be there to help remind them.
Is it the same ones usually, Shane?
I will always say that my job is I deal with 80% of the time with the same kids.
Yes.
Kids are kids. They're going to make
Sure.
mistakes. We've all made mistakes. That's going to happen from time to time. But you get those students where they may not have the support system at home, don't really have the
Yes.
parental influence. And that's very big. Your parental influence, you're going to act how you're allowed to act at home. And a lot of times, if they don't have that, it's tougher for them to follow rules at school, and you have to remind them. So yes, I would say most of the time it's repeat offenders that are doing the deeds.
Thanks, Shane, for joining us, and thanks
Well, I
everybody
appreciate
for
it. Well,
watching
thank you,
this
guys.
edition of the Spartan Sports Report here on TV3. Good night, everybody.